I'm David Bolt.
I'm Richie Mackay.
And you are listening to the Wrong Bias Bowls podcast. And on today's show, we've got Alex Marshall MBE, who will be coming on to talk about his career, what the future holds, and he'll also be going through my 7-Up questions. We've got a festive competition for this podcast as well, we've got some really good prizes. Once again, thanks very much to Alex Marshall Sports, who have supported us from day one. And the competition is going to be, the winner will get some Wrong Bias merchandise, which includes keyring, fridge magnet, cloth, etc. And we will also have a Amazon dot. And as well as that, Alex has been great, and actually he's going to donate one of his Commonwealth Games Scotland shirts, and he's going to sign that as well. And there'll also be an England shirt, and if requested by the winner, myself and Richie will happily sign that for you as well. We will also be catching up with Richie with his roundup of results in and around the British Isles and around the world. And we'll also be doing a little bit of general bowls chat and catching up on a few topics.
Right, mate, there's one little thing that rankles with us at the minute, and that's club shirts. It's Christmas time, and many a bowler around the country, around the world, will be unwrapping a new bowl shirt with a bit colour in it. Come January the 4th, they go down to their local bowls club, get the tap on the shoulder to say, "Can I wear that? Too much colour in." It's a branded shirt. It's from a well-known bowl supplier. What do you think, mate? Is the game kicking itself?
You've got to start on this one now. This could end up being about a 2.5-hour show, this one, because this has been one of my biggest bugbears for a long time. And obviously, having had the retail shop as well, I've seen it firsthand. I worked in retail in the bowl side for a lot of years, and it just astounded me how many, and I don't want to single out, but more so women would come into the shop and say, "Hey, that top is really nice, maybe a pink top or a lilac top, whatever it was, have a nice bit of colour in from one of the bowls manufacturers," and then should get pulled to one side by one of our friends and say, "Well, you'll not be able to wear it." And it's like, well, why wouldn't you be able to wear it? Or our club only allows a little bit of piping here and there, or it's got to be completely white. And it just absolutely astounds me. And I'd love to have a pound for the amount of times I've turned around and said, how many of these people who are dictating in clubs to say, you cannot wear colour in your shirts, and you know, this could be a bowls manufactured shirt, so they're not going to make them if they're not to be designed to be worn. But how many of these people who are holding the sport back go back to their home on a night and sit and watch a black and white TV? Because that effectively, in my mind, is exactly what they're doing within clubs. They want people to look in greys and whites, and what, you know, just there's clubs where you've got a lot of passing traffic. They might it might be a multi-use building, and why would anybody not want to see colour on a bowling green? And it just infuriates me. And to be honest with you, I've had many a battle with it, and to be honest with you, a lot of the battles have probably caused potential sort of issues directly with myself, because people think that I'm doing it for my own,
being a rebel,
for my own good, and being a rebel. And it's like, well, no, this is about the sport. This is about how we drive this sport forward. You know, I always hold my hands up and say I've still got no issues with clubs who want to have tradition and turn up in blazers and ties. And, you know, we still see it in cricket, we still see it in football. When they go to the FA Cup finals, they'll turn up in suits, whatever it is. But why would you not then change into something that is a lot more appealing, and for people to look onto the green and be able to identify that you are this team or you are that team? And it's, you know,
it's probably the equivalent of, like, say, Nike producing a football shirt for, say, Liverpool, and then Liverpool turn around to the fans to say, you can't wear it inside the stadium.
Absolutely.
You know, you just at times I just feel as if clubs just shoot themselves in the foot.
You're right, and it's an argument I've had so many times, and I cringe when people turn around and say, the sport's dying, the sport's failing. No, it's not. The sport itself has lasted for so many years. The sport is a fantastic sport, and it's extremely addictive. The only people that are ruining this sport are the people who are holding back by not progressing with the times and allowing a new era of people to come in. And we've talked about it's a technological era now. It's hard enough getting people off their iPods or their laptops or their mobiles without then having them walk into a club and turn around and say, I'm sorry, you can't go on the green to have a practice unless you've got a pair of greys and whites on. It's like, come on. You know, we should be going down the path of sort of the 10-pin bowling sort of, you can walk in with your family off the street and just go in and try balls for the first time. That's, you know, we've got a massive job to change the perception in the sport to start with, but that is a great step to be able to at least walk in and people to be able to turn around and go, hey, crikey, I used to think it was tie and blazer and you had to wear a hat. And it is changing. Like I say, I genuinely believe it's a minority, but I just can't believe that this minority look at everybody else and think that they're doing wrong, but they're the ones who are in the right.
I think that the sport's probably got bigger problems than shirt issues, so why create the issue with the shirts in the first place?
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, for example, here's a prime example for you. The AIB have got a new range of balls wear out at the moment, and I think they look smart as a carrot. But I'll tell you what, if I bought one of them shirts and I wore it in my local club, I'd be told I wouldn't be able to wear it. Now, that's your governing bodies endorsing something which is good for the sport, and I'm sure my local club isn't the only one. I'm sure there'd be probably plenty around the country doing exactly the same, but they just don't see the big picture.
No, and that is the biggest. I think that is the biggest issue. And the amazing thing is that it will be in a club there will be a 5 or 10% sort of group in that club who dominate the other 90%. And I've said for years, why don't you just stand your ground and say, no, this is going to happen. What's going to happen to that 10%? Are they going to overrule the 90? The club's not going to suffer for it, because ultimately that 90% are going to drive the club forward into a new era. So effectively, you should actually make up that 10% if they were to walk away and not be happy with it.
Yeah.
But, you know, these minority players now are going to find that it's harder and harder to go to a club, because every club now is starting to see the light. And it was fantastic today to see, I posted on our Facebook page, what a great email from Stephen Robson from Newton Delville Club, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And he basically just said that he listened to the show. We talked about the Vipers in our very first show. Stephen had contacted me to just say, how did you go about it? How do you register things? Had a chat with them, and they have met as a club. And they've got a very young club. I think they won the ABF title last year, and they see that as a real way to progress the club. And they've changed their nickname to the Knights as an outdoor club. Obviously, we talked to Andy Napper from White Knights, so they're known as the Knights, but they're an indoor club, so there's no conflict there. But regardless, it's just let's stop the pathetic issues and start to look at what the bigger picture is and start to drive this sport forward and stop making excuses that aren't there, because there is nothing wrong with the sport of bowls. It is unfortunately just the people within it.
And just in case I am in the minority, we'll stick a poll on our Facebook page, mate, and just ask the question, does your club allow you to wear coloured shirts in bog standard league games, i.e. in a 6:30 league and what have you? It'll just be a simple yes or no. I might be in the minority. We'll see.
Well, I was a little bit of a rebel when I first went to South Shields, because Air Road just brought out a nice range of yellows and blues and different tops, and I was relatively new to being a full member of the club at the time, and I pushed it a little bit, and I went on in league games, and I could see little huddles in the corner now and again. And to be honest with you, I don't like to cause trouble, but I thrive on it a little bit as well, because I really encourage people to actually come over and have a go at us for doing it, because for this argument that we've just had, I'd like to sort of come back and at least give my point of view. And if I was made to walk off the green and put a different white top on, I'm not going to cause a scene and do it. But as you know, at South Shields now, you can walk in there, and as long as it's a Bowls manufactured top or a smart top with a collar, you can wear any colour you want, and you walk in and it's great. Loads of people are wearing different colours, wearing shorts, and people are just relaxed playing bowls, which is what it's all about.
Like I say, that is me bugbear. You open up your Christmas present, branded shirt, not allowed to wear it. Can I get my head around it? Welcome to Richies Roundup. And that's the sound of another national champion fallen. This time it's in the women's singles. Norfolk's Catherine Rednall was beaten by clubmate Rebecca Wilgris 21-18. The men's Denny Cup has reached the last 16 stage. Holders Exonia will yet again meet Dorchester. The two teams met last year, with Exonia winning by 8 shots. Last year's beaten finalists, the newly branded South Shields Vipers, take on Gateshead, Nottingham play Leicester, Bettles play Ipswich, St Neots play Northampton, River Rain play Clary Dunbar, Egham play Wear Valley, Folkestone play Victory. The Plate has also reached the last 16. Last year's runners-up, Blackpool Newton Hall, will play Selby, and it's a decent field still in the competition with 3 runners-up still running: Norfolk, Wellingborough and Swale. The Ladies Yetton Trophy has also reached the last 16 stage. Last year's runners-up, Dolphin play Adieu, Handycross play North Wilts, Dorchester play Torbay, Ty Green play Swale, Norfolk play Falcon, Desborough play St Neots, Lincoln play Spalding, and Harrogate, who knocked out the holders York, take on Great Aycliffe. In the Yetton Plate, runners-up Torquay are still running and they play Moonfleet 2000. The Men's Liberty Trophy has reached the quarter-final stage. Holders Durham, who are going for their 13th title, face Cumbria after overcoming Lincolnshire by 42. Norfolk play Cambridgeshire, Sussex play Hampshire and Somerset play Devon. In the Ladies Athlete Trophy, holders Cambridgeshire beat Leicestershire by 27 and now place Norfolk. Lincolnshire play Notts, Essex play Sussex, Dorset play Somerset. The Egham Trophy has reached the quarter-final stage. Holders Exonia will play North Wilts and last year's beaten finalists Lincoln take on the Shields Vipers. And finally, the Mixed Top Club is at the last 16 stage. Holders Swale will play Clary Dunbar. Scotland have confirmed their team for the International Series at Llanelli. Their talisman, Alex Marshall, after losing all 3 in last season's series, is given a full new front 3. There's a recall for clubmate Jamie Higgins, West Lothian's James Spears, and a new cap at 3rd for Marshall for James Ripley. There's also new caps for Gary Johnston and Paul Brown, plus a recall for Gary Hutchinson. The Scottish Under-25 international team for the series at Stanley in February sees a recall for Ardrossan's Jack Montgomery and John Fleming Jr. of Prestwick. News from Wales. Cardiff's lead in the Premier League is now 28 points following their 20-2 win over bottom of the table Merthyr Tydfil. Islewin's 16-6 win over Bueno Gwent moves them into 2nd, and Swansea go 6th after a 14-8 win over Port Talbot. After last year's wooden spoon at the International Series, the Welsh selectors have made 8 changes to the team. There are 5 recalls: Sam Rolfe, Dale McCarthy, Ian Henderson, Jonathan Tomlinson, Lee Daniels and Matthew Partridge, while there are 2 new caps for Ben Matthews and John Ackland. The Welsh Under-25 team will try to defend their title they won in Aberdeen at Stanley in February. There are 4 new caps and 2 recalls. The new caps are Dion Perigon, Thomas Sims, Daniel Seaborn and Rhys Colwyn, while there's recalls for Cameron White and Jordan Driscoll. And we dug out some news from Ireland. The main team competition appears to be the Inter-Stadium Championships, which is generally played between October and February. The format is 4 rings of 4, playing 21 ends of 4 hours, and these games are also regarded as trial matches for any potential international hopefuls. Well, it's all done and dusted, as Belfast A landed the title on 35 points from County Antrim 23, Ballybreaks Community 20.5 and the Belfast B team on 5.5. The Irish selectors have named their under-25 team for the International Series at Stanley, and it includes 5 new caps: C. Sloan, J. Kyle, B. Sterling, J. Moffat and C. Core. The Irish have never won an under-25 series. Could this be their year? Meanwhile, the main Ireland team is yet to be finalised, with trials still taking place during January. And congratulations go to Welford's Mark Burdett, who won the latest Open Singles Circuit tournament at Barwell. He beat Lincoln's Kevin Rands in the final. Meanwhile, in the Egham event, Crystal Palace's Tom Bishop secured his second OSC title when he beat Chorlton Park's Adam White in the final. Tom moves up to second in the overall rankings.
You are listening to the Wrong Bias Bulls podcast.
And now we catch up with the Scottish legend Alex Marshall MBE.
Hello.
Hi, Alex.
How are we getting on?
Not too bad at all, thanks, Alex. Thanks very much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
No problem at all, mate.
And from both of us, we'd also just like to thank you so much for the support you've given us from our first podcast. That was a few weeks ago now, but everything's been going great, and it's much appreciated that you agreed to help us as well.
No, it's no problem at all. It's always nice to put something back into the game, and for what you and Richie are doing, I'm more than happy to give these products to yourself.
Yeah, it's gone down really well. Like I say, we're going to try and boost the numbers up a little bit. We're getting a load of listens, but we're not getting a massive amount of entries for a free competition. So we're hopefully going to try and change that in the future. We'll crack on, Alex, if that's all right with yourself. I didn't want to go on too much about obviously your career. I think everybody who knows you, Alex, knows what you've done in the game. So I thought it'd be quite interesting for people to actually hear about where it all started. So I was thought it would be great if you could just give us an understanding as to did you play any sports when you were younger, and obviously how you came about starting the sport, and where the nickname Tatty came from as well.
Yeah, it was. I started when I was 8 years old. I was where the school was. It was more or less right opposite the bowling club. So rather than playing any other sports at break time, i.e. football or tag or whatever other games in the playground, I just used to go over to the local bowling club, which was Gorgie Mills Bowling Club, which is about a 15 to 20 metre walk across the road. So it was my dad and my granddad that got me involved in the sport, and thanks to them I've continued to play away, and I've been quite successful. So yeah, it's been thanks to them. But yeah, I was involved in football, a little bit of rugby when I was younger, but yeah, I had to choose between football and bowls, and I think I made the right decision, David.
Yeah, great stuff. So just an interesting one for me. What was the perception like from your schoolmates when you were obviously playing bowls? Because when I was at school, just to give you an understanding, I did play football and other sports in there, so I think I got away with it quite a bit. But it's not a popular sport in any shape or form, and young lads like to have a little bit of a rib about the sport, which hopefully will change in the future. Did you find that happened in Scotland, or was it a little bit more accepted?
No, it was the very same. I used to get a bit of stick, when I used to leave the playground, whether it be at break time or lunchtime or whenever it was. And I used to always say, is that you going away to play the old man's game of bowls? And, I try to just, explain to them that, at that time, when going back 25, 30 years ago, it was an old man's game. But, it was great just to be involved in it, purely because it was my father and my grandfather that got me involved. And to be honest, I was the only kid at the bowling club that was, I was only a kid under the age of 16-year-old. So, yeah, it was hard back then, but I had to just accept it, but I did play a bit of football as well. But, I was the same as you, David. I got a bit of stick for it, but, I just laughed it off and just carried on playing the game of bowls that I love. What
was your first competition that you won as a youngster? How old were you?
I was 10-year-old. It's gone back a long time ago, 1977, when I won the under-16 schoolboys, the whole Edinburgh. Yeah. And the person that beat in the final was Richard Corsey. I can always remember it. I remember it very, very well, because I get asked that question quite a lot. When was the first, what was the first title that, I did win? And I won at 21-19 against Richard in the under 16 schoolboys at the club it was called. It was Victoria Park Bowling Club. So yeah, it was fantastic, because myself and Richard grew up, throughout the years, and to play against him when I was 10-year-old and go in 10, 15 years time, and to be partnered with him, in the World Outdoor Championships and the World Indoor Pairs. You know, it's great to to have Richard about because he's one of my best friends.
Absolutely, it's so strange that, Alex, actually, because you're saying that. I know I was 10 when I won my first one. The reason I asked it was when the kids at school who basically said anything, I just used to turn around and I think I won £25 or something for my first competition when I was 10, and I just used to turn around and say, well, I've just won 25 quid, which was a lot of money at that time. So it sort of was a little bit of a comeback for them. But the mention of Richard Coursey there, when I was 10 or 11, Richard actually came to South Shields Indoor, obviously where I play my indoor balls, and he did an exhibition day there, and I actually played against him again when I think I was 10 or 11-year-old. So it's really weird you're saying that, because very, very, very similar with that respect. I've never seen a man strike so many jacks off the green like he did. He was just phenomenal. I think they put something like 8 jacks across the rinks, and he just cleaned pretty much every single one of them off.
Yeah.
And it was
he was probably the best player that I've ever seen and played with. I've played with a lot of great players over the years, Paul Foster and all these guys, but Richard had a talent that I just think no one else had. His delivery, probably the best delivery that I've ever saw in my life. It was so smooth, everything was perfect. But yeah, he was a wonderful guy, and it was really sad to see him retire going back maybe 10 or 15 years ago. But he was a class player. Yeah,
I was going to say the same thing. It was a shame to see him finish. And I know Chris Storff, who comes down from Scotland to play for South Shields in our Denny, not so much this year, but last year, he's always said to me as well, he rated him as the best, and he says he's never seen anybody like him. So it was such a shame to see him go at such a, what was relatively an early age.
Yeah, I catch up with him from time to time, and he keeps always asking, how's the balls going, and, who's winning, and, who's winning all the titles and stuff. I think he tries to catch up with it as much as possible, but... Yeah. I know he's busy with his businesses, but he still keeps that little bit of interest. But you know what? It'd be great to see him come back and just play in a couple of events just to see how we would compete against the guys that are performing now.
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I think with you saying about obviously his delivery and things, he was obviously such a natural talent. It wouldn't be a shock to anybody if he just came back on the green and obviously started to play some great stuff again.
Well, he's got that ability to do that, David. I can remember he done it before. He took a year out and he turned up at Potters without a bowling bag. He came in, walked with 4 balls in his hands and a pair of shoes in his hand, and he went on, and I think he actually lost in the final to Tony Alcock that year. So
tremendous.
It just goes to show that guys like Richard can take a year out and still come back and play as good as what they've always done.
Absolutely. Bit of a Ronnie O'Sullivan-esque type of guy who obviously can just pick a ball up and just turn it on whenever he needs it, the same as Ronnie does with snooker. He's just phenomenal. But obviously moving on, Alex, with regards to your career going forward, we've seen you, and obviously the last show we talked a lot about the Ultimate Bowls Championship, which we've seen you out there, and I know you love that event. What does the future hold for yourself, Alex? Where do you see the next maybe 5 or 10 years going with regards to your playing career? And then maybe are you going to step into some sort of administration, managerial role?
Oh, well, it's a difficult one to call, to be honest. I wanted to obviously keep playing at the highest level as long as I can.
Yeah.
I've still got the hunger for it. I'm a fierce competitor. Until I lose that, I'll still keep playing and trying to play to the best of my ability. But I would like to put something back into the sport. So maybe I would still love to play Leamington for the Commie Games. Next World Championships are in the Gold Coast, which I've just been selected for, and I believe the next one is in Hong Kong. So I think I want to play in these 3 events. So maybe after that, just see where we are. Fitness and see how I am after that, and maybe go into hopefully do something with Bowl Scotland and the coaching stuff for Bowl Scotland. So it's a difficult one to say, but I'd like to keep playing for as long as possible at the highest level.
Fantastic. I think the Hong Kong event, I know the greens aren't brilliant out there, but at the same time, once you get used to them, they're fine. But I think that'll be a great event out there, because they absolutely love the bowls over in Hong Kong. Been lucky enough.
They do. They've had that Hong Kong Classic of, as long as I can remember, 25, 30 years ago, they've had that Hong Kong Classic going. The Hong Kong do put so much into the sport. They love their bowls over in Hong Kong, so I'm sure they'll be trying to do as best I can to get the greens to the best of conditions, and hopefully I'll be there and representing Scotland. But that could be my last World Championships, but we'll just wait and see how it goes, David.
Absolutely, and it'll be nice to see I saw a couple from Hong Kong over at the Ultimate Bowls Championship. I was watching a little bit of the live streaming, and I think was it Mr. Yee who's put an entry in for them. I know Mark was saying he supports he supports the competition a lot and supports bowls, and is a major figure in Hong Kong. So that was really nice to see as well.
No, it was, and to be fair to the guys from Hong Kong, they competed very well. Every single game's a hard game over there, and I think they put up a good fight in a lot of games. I know they just lost a few games in the last end and things, but they competed very well against very strong teams.
Absolutely, and they'll only get better and by gaining the experience from that as well. And we sort of said a similar thing with the World Under-25 Championships that was on at West End, and there was a couple of countries there that took a couple of hammerings, but you've got to be participating and to get the experience, to get the knowledge, and then to obviously drive yourself forward to get better for the future. And I've got no doubt they've got the structure in place that will help them to do that as well.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of countries that have been, really, some of them have been fantastic. France, for instance, at the Atlantic Rim Games, I thought they were fantastic. They played really well, and I think that's one team that I think we're going to be seeing more often in the future. I was quite impressed by the way they played. As Hong Kong, there's a lot of countries out there that are and that's what you've got to do. You've got to play in these big events to get the experience, to get to make your game better, and that's why I go over to Australia to play in the BPL and the UBC. I think it's really good for your game. You know that if you don't play well, then you don't win.
Absolutely.
But the more games you get like that, it can only be better for your own game.
Absolutely, that's great. So on that note, obviously you play a lot around the world, Alex. You see a lot of players. From your point of view, have you seen somebody who you think is potentially going to be the next kid on the block, with either male or female, who you think will dominate world bowls in the future?
Yeah, I think but there's so many up and coming great players out there. But there's been a couple who have really impressed me over the last few events in the last few years. Got to mention young Aaron Tees from Australia, who plays for Warilla Bowling Club. I've known him as a teenager, met him at Warilla when I played over there in the pennant seasons. But he's one guy that's really came on the scene the last 3 or 4 years. But he's been absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And he's broke into the Aussie squad, and he's been doing really well. So I think Aaron Tees is really one to watch, for the future.
Absolutely.
Gary Kelly, since he's went over there, he's been winning more or less every single thing that's been going on over there. He's been very impressive. He loves the concept of the events over in Australia. So Gary is obviously another one. He's been there for the last few years anyway. But I think Gary's getting stronger and stronger as he gets a little bit older. And I think after the World Challenge, I think Catherine Redknapp is certainly one to watch out for as well. I was very impressed by her performance the rest of the world. She played absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So I think these three, and as I say, David, I think there's many more, but I think that's three that I've really picked, that I can pick out who's been outstanding in their performances. Have been second to none.
Fantastic, great answers, Alex. That's brilliant. Right, well, what we'll do now, Alex, is just moving on to my 7-up questions, if that's okay. It's just 7 quick questions, a couple of little ropey ones in there for you, but just give us your answers off the top of your head. Don't need to think about them too much. So, number 1 is your favourite green.
Favourite green is going to be Potter's Leisure Resort.
Bowls used.
Aero size 4 groove.
Haggis or roast beef?
Definitely haggis.
Best match you've ever played in? This will be a tough one.
There's been a lot. It's got to be the 2014 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow when we pipped Sam Tolchard in the semi-final with my last 2 bowls.
Yeah, remember it well. Toughest opponent, either individual or a team?
Toughest opponent, I've got to say Paul Foster.
Paul Foster, no problem. Whiskey or a pint?
Whiskey.
And future ambition in the sport, Alex, what would be the one pinnacle thing that you would like to add to your career?
One thing, future in the sport, that I would like to add to my career would be... now you've got me on that one, David. I just think winning another gold medal at the next Commonwealth Games.
Fantastic, great target. Right, Alex, that's great. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. Really appreciate it. I know you've had a really busy time, so I do appreciate the time that you've come on. And I know you'll be now getting ready to settle down for Christmas. Hope everything's going well there. And once again, just thank you so much for sponsoring and supporting the show. And we hope to continue to go from strength to strength. And hopefully everybody who's going to listen to this on Boxing Day will have a full belly, be lying on the couch and enjoy listening to us for at least half an hour, 40 minutes or so.
Thank you very much, David. I would just like to obviously say it's been a great job that you guys have done bringing on this podcast, because it brings a lot of news from around the world, different counties, different bowling clubs, and anything that we can get to promote our sport great sport is great. So I think you guys have done a great job, and long may it continue, David, to yourself and Richie, and have a good Christmas and a happy New Year.
That's great. Thanks very much. Really appreciate it, Alex. You too.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, mate. Take care now.
Cheers, bye, mate.
And as mentioned earlier on in the show, we've got our competition, and we've changed it a little bit again this week. I've done a few draws on the last ones, which we've ended up with 3 Shields players out of 4 winners, which I must admit I felt a bit guilty because I sort of groaned when James Sneller came out winning the last competition, but it was nothing to do with James. It was just the thought of that's 3 of my own club mates who have won competitions. But as you'll have seen, I do it live. I try not to, I make sure everything's as clear as a bell, and it's just that's the way it's worked out. But for this one, competition this week. So as mentioned, we keep pushing these Amazon products. We're desperate to try and get more and more listeners, but we've got an Amazon Dot that we're playing for, which is fantastic. We've also got our new Wrong Bias merchandise that's come through now, which are a fridge magnet, there is a key ring, there is a chalk spray, there is a cloth, and as part of that little package we'll be sending out some leaflets and a poster, and the winner, it would be really appreciated if you could distribute around your club. If any other clubs are interested in having a poster in their club, it would be great if you could drop us a line and we'll happily send that out for you. But also as part of that prize is a signed Commonwealth Games Scotland shirt by Alex Marshall, so thank you very much for that, Alex. And also I'll be chucking in an England shirt that, as if the winner requests it, then myself and Richie will sign that on behalf of the Wrong Bias team. So all in all, once again, thank you to Alex Marshall Sports for the support, and for the competition this week, a little bit different. What I want you to do is I want you to guess how many listeners this podcast will have had by New Year's Eve noon lunchtime. So what I will actually do is I will go on to our stats that we get produced on a regular basis, letting us know how many listeners there are, and I will take a screenshot exactly at 12 o'clock of how many listeners we have had for this podcast. Whoever has got the closest, then they will win it. Obviously, if you nail it and get it exactly right, if there are 2 the same, we will have to have a little bit of a tie break, but we will think of that closer to the time. So all I need you to do is either drop us an email on wrong.bias@hotmail.com, go onto the website, go onto the Facebook page and drop us a message, or put it in the comment page on the post on Facebook. Again, I would have a look at other people's answers because you don't want to be answering the same thing. And you can also drop us a tweet with your answer on there as well. And just to give you a little bit of a guide, Richie, have you got an idea as to what we're usually kicking around at about a week?
After about a week, we're kicking around about 200, 250.
So there you go. So get your answers in and around that. We're hoping, with it being Boxing Day and everybody will be absolutely stuffed from the day before, we're hoping that we might have a few people listening on Boxing Day as well. So we're hoping the figures might be a little bit higher. But please take your guess, and I hope you have the best of luck and win the competition, because it is a great, great prize.
Right, mate, I thought it would be worthwhile just trying to point any new starters in the right direction of bowl selection. As the World Championships is coming up in January, the sport generally gets about a 2 weeks TV coverage, and it's a minefield out there for anybody going to pick up a new set of bowls. There's up to 8 different sizes, 20 colours, and to be honest, if the world champion used Lignum Vitae's wooden set, I think the sales of Lignum Vitae's wooden sets would go up. Yeah. So, David, in your experience, lay it on the table, son.
I think it's a great opportunity for clubs. I think it's this is an ideal window for clubs to obviously the sport is going to be promoted. We're going to see some of the best players on the world on TV. If you can attract people to your club, they obviously are going to need new kit. It sort of leads us a little bit into the conversation we had about the coloured tops that we wear in nice kit and different coloured bowls. I think it's generally red and green for the World Bowls Championships. But I've always recommended for any new starters, make sure that they don't dive in and just go and buy a set of balls because they see something. It's like in the nicest possible way without putting them down. It's like us starting golf and walking into Sports Direct and thinking, oh, look at that, a set of Donners for £140 for a full set. And it's, you think you're getting a great deal, but there's a reason why they're £140 for a full set and the others are £1,000 plus, etc. So it's an easy way to, people could sort of be quite put off by the situation if they were to go out there and buy something and find that they've spent £200 or £300.
Cheap, mate, are they?
No, Yes and no. I mean, my argument is they are in the context of what you get.
Yeah.
You know, £350. I still scratch my head when people go, "Oh, £350, absolutely ridiculous." But you can have that set of balls for 20 years and probably still sell them for 140 quid when you finish with them. It's, you know, you don't lose a lot on average. What are you spending? You know, £20 a year, £25 a year, whatever it works out to be for as long as you've got them. So. Yeah. I think, yes, they are expensive in the terms of what they've been in the past.
For a new starter.
For a new starter. And I always recommend that get your new starters on the green. Let them try 4 or 5 different sets of your balls. Let them, you know, at least have a month or 2 months trying something and try and help them and recommend them the best they can. I know we've all got our opinions of what we think's the best bias. Is it a tight bias, a medium bias? But they will work their own, you know, they'll work it out for themselves over a period of time. But I just, you know, I hate it when I see new bowlers just go out there and they'll see something in a local ad for £40 and it's a set of 1943 lignoids and they walk in with them and they thought they've got a great I just go, oh crikey. But yeah, it's a great opportunity for the sport. It is fantastic that we get this coverage on BBC. Great opportunity for clubs to bring new people in. But yeah, let's just make sure.
You not think the World Championships, I think every year where they've used different set of balls, I bet you the sales of that type of ball has gone up because people are watching the likes of Alex, Paul Foster, nailing the jack and saying, I'll get a set of them because they're playing well with them.
Absolutely. And it's the same in every sport, isn't it? It's like a goalkeeper wears a pair of gloves and you think if you buy that pair of gloves, you'll never let a goal in for the rest of your life. And it's like, I'll play with Ronnie O'Sullivan's replica cue and I'm going to be knocking 147s in every week. It's just, that's why advertising is big business. But at the same time, there is a reason why the top bowlers use them balls, and that is they would not use something that is going to affect their game. No. And whether they're sponsored or contract or whatever it is, they will not use something that they're not going to benefit from and win games from. So you can learn a lot from what people are playing with. I do recommend that you ask why Alex is playing with this, or why Sam Tolchar, or why Louis Rider, or, you know, a lot of the players will play with different sets of balls. Find out why they use them, and generally it's because they are the most consistent ball for them. And, you know, it's very, very rare you see a lot of the top bowlers playing with very narrow bias balls.
And is the new coloured ball black?
I think it is,
yeah. For you, mate.
Yeah.
And when was the last time you seen a set of brown balls?
I can remember the day, and I believe it was when England won the Rugby World Cup.
Aye.
Johnny Wilkinson, and I was playing Denny, and I think that was just in and around the time when new coloured balls had come in.
Right.
And it was like a plague. People were going, they will never take off them. Black and brown all day long, coloured will never come in. And now it's like, you're lucky if you spot a black or a brown set now. But
do you think they still make brown balls?
Yes, I believe they do.
Do they?
Yeah, I believe they do. I'm sure one of the manufacturers do. I might be wrong.
I've got a set of brown headslights up in the loft. My second set of balls,
Is that your size 19s that you used to play?
My size 7s, hence like classic 2s, mate. Other products are available.
I would have
up in the loft, mate.
I would have had to use 2 hands to roll them things up the grid.
I do now, mate. I do now.
But no, it's great. I think there's some really good stuff on the market now. And yes, it's not the cheapest, but it's certainly in line with other sports, I believe.
You are listening to Wrong Bias Podcast.
And here's a few bloopers to put a smile on your face. There's a bit of a theme running in this lot. Right, thanks Dave. Yeah, the Denny Cup's been taking place this weekend. Locally, the Vipers beat Durham 69...
Bloopers.
23 minutes to record an interview and it'll take us 23 minutes to do a 2-minute report. What's the chance of that happening? Now, in our competition, Alex Marshall kindly donates 1 prize. Isn't that right, Mr. Bolt?
4 prizes on each podcast, and we've got to say huge thanks to Alex Marshall Sports.
Say that again, mate.
4 prizes on each podcast, and we've got to say huge thanks to Alex Marshall Sports.
Go on, mate. You're on a roll.
We'll also be running our normal Alex Marshall sponsored Alex Marshall Sports.
Keep going, I'm cutting it.
We all
There's a blooper and all. Christmas bloopers. Get in, son. You're there. And finally, here's our classic. After beating Lionelli 16-6.
Lionelli? Is that Lionel and Messi?
Lionelli? That's the way you pronounce it.
But definitely matter.
It's Lionelli, the way it's written. It's Lionelli. Anyway, moving on. Swansea beat Cannon Valley 18-4 and Port Talbot lost 17-5 at home to Izzywin.
Izzy Wizzy, let's get busy. You do realise if you ever walk the wheels, they're going to kick you all over.
Luckily for me, Merthyr Tydfil had a bye and Ben Gwent had a bye. I must apologise to our listeners if we've got any left.
If anybody could just drop us an email and let us know how those pronounced, I will pass it on to Richie for the next podcast.
I apologise.
And that's number 5 done. So I've really enjoyed that show. It was great to talk to Alex.
Yeah.
Like I say, we've got a great prize on offer this one for the Christmas, and it was nice to have Alex on the show as well for the Christmas. It was always sort of planned to have him for our Boxing Day show.
Yeah. If anybody else wants to be interviewed on the show, just feel free, drop us a line. We're not shy, don't be shy. We don't bite. It's not recorded live. We edit it, so don't be shy.
I know we've said this before, and like I say, first and foremost, we wish everybody a fantastic New Year. Christmas is over now. I hope you've all had a fantastic Christmas when this is broadcast. I hope you have a great New Year in 2020. But most of all, really, I've said it on our post, but thanks so much to everybody who has given us fantastic comments.
Yeah.
Listening, that's the main thing. We just, people who are listening, and it just shows that what we're doing is not a waste of time, and I don't think it is. I think it's gone down really well, and the more the better. We keep saying it. Just let us know anything that you want us to be on. You'll have seen so far now that we're trying to introduce new things all the time. One quick thing, you didn't know I was going to do this neither, but I'm always blabbing on about what I do in this sport. But Mr. Mackay, let's take us back the years. British Isles champion. Who was it you played with, and what year was it?
Oh, Jimmy Lambert and Gary Smith, 1991, 2. 81, 91, 92.
You'll have been about 64 then, were you?
I was 64, mate, yeah. 64, and I was 6 stone wet through.
And where was that held?
And that was held at, the British Isles was held at Aberdeen. And we beat Angus Blair, Scottish lad.
Angus Blair, yeah.
Angus Blair, Endring. Those were the days. Those were the days. Happy days, mate.
Well, I thought I'd drop that into the conversation because people out there will be just thinking that you're just really bad at pronouncing Welsh names.
Which I am. And Scottish names. And I've actually added a bit Irish as well in this one.
But you've got a bit of a career there as well, mate, and you've played balls for a lot of years.
Yeah. Well, I must say, mate, it's been a pleasure, these 5 episodes. I think it's got a treat. I do let you do a lot of the talking because you say a lot of things that I think, and it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. And it's been my highlight of my year, mate.
Great stuff, mate, too. I enjoyed every second of it.
Okay, and wish you all well in 2020. And I hope the life is a bit easier on our bowling fraternity, because I know we've lost a lot of good people over the last 12 months.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening, and hope you've enjoyed the show.
This has been a Dodgy production.